Embracing non-attachment, the pathway to true freedom. Welcome, dear listeners, to our exploration into the profound spiritual concept of non-attachment. Today, we will journey together through the realms of understanding, embracing, and practicing non-attachment in a way that liberates our souls and enriches our lives. Non-attachment is often misunderstood as indifference or a lack of passion. However, it is, in fact, a powerful state of being that fosters deep engagement with the world without being ensnared by the fleeting aspects of our experiences. It is about loving deeply, yet without dependencies. It is about engaging fully, yet without being swayed by outcomes. It is, ultimately, about freedom. Let's begin by exploring the foundation of non-attachment. Why is it so pivotal? In spiritual traditions, such as Buddhism and Hinduism, non-attachment is seen as essential because it aligns us with the true nature of existence. Everything in this world is transient. Our experiences, possessions, and even our thoughts are in a constant state of flux. By developing an attitude of non-attachment, we align ourselves with this fundamental impermanence and thus reduce our suffering. Think about the last time you felt upset or stressed. Was it because something didn't go according to plan? Perhaps you were clinging to a fixed idea or an expected outcome. Now, imagine how you would have felt if you had approached the situation with non-attachment. If you had put in your best effort without being attached to how things needed to turn out, how might your experience have changed? Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons. Moving deeper into the practical aspects of non-attachment, let's consider the role of desires. Desires are natural. They drive us to pursue goals, to create, and to evolve. However, when our happiness becomes dependent on fulfilling these desires, they become bindings. Non-attachment teaches us to have desires but to be open to various outcomes. It encourages us to pursue our goals passionately without being dictated by the need for a specific result. In relationships, non-attachment is equally transformative. It allows us to love others wholly without trying to own or control them. It liberates both parties from the expectations that often lead to disappointment and conflict. When you love someone with non-attachment, you appreciate them as they are, without needing them to fill any voids within yourself. Now, let us pause for a moment and reflect on how the practice of non-attachment might transform our own lives. How might our day-to-day experiences change if we were less attached to our self-created images, the roles we play, and the masks we wear? As we continue, we will delve into the spiritual dimensions of non-attachment. Spiritually, non-attachment is not just about emotional detachment from the material world. It is about understanding the essence of our being. It's about recognizing that at a fundamental level, we are not defined by what we possess, the roles we perform, or even our fleeting thoughts and feelings. This recognition leads us to a state of inner peace. When we realize that we are not solely our successes, our failures, or our possessions, we are freed from the burden of constant self-evaluation. This peace is not a passive state. It is an active participation in life, but with an inner serenity that helps us face the ups and downs with equanimity. Now consider the freedom that comes with this realization. Imagine living each day with this peace. How would this change your approach to life's challenges? How would it affect the way you interact with others? In the next segment of our exploration, we will discuss how to cultivate non-attachment in our daily lives through mindfulness and meditation. These tools help us observe our attachments and gently let them go without judgment or force. The art of mindfulness. Cultivating non-attachment in everyday life. In this next part of our exploration, we focus on the practical application of non-attachment through mindfulness and meditation. These are not just practices for the spiritually inclined, but are tools for anyone seeking a deeper sense of peace and presence in their life. Mindfulness is the art of being fully present in the moment, aware of ourselves and our environment without judgment. When practiced regularly, mindfulness brings us face to face with the nature of our attachments. It allows us to see how our minds cling to certain thoughts, emotions, and patterns, and how these attachments often lead to unnecessary stress and suffering. Consider a simple act of mindfulness: eating. When eating mindfully, you are fully present with the experience of eating. You notice the textures, the flavors, the smells, and even your body's response to the food. More importantly, you become aware of your mind's tendency to rush through the meal or to think about what you'll do next, rather than simply being present with the eating. This awareness is the first step in practicing non-attachment. It shows us how often we miss the richness of life by clinging to our thoughts about the past or the future. Meditation deepens this practice by providing a structured way to observe and let go of these attachments. During meditation, you might focus on your breath, a mantra, or a visualization. As you do so, you will notice thoughts, feelings, and sensations arising. The practice is not to empty the mind of these thoughts, but rather to observe them without attachment, letting them come and go freely. This is a direct application of non-attachment, seeing things as they are without needing to hold on to them or push them away. Now, how do we bring this into our daily lives? One effective method is to start with a simple routine. Perhaps begin the day with 5 minutes of sitting in silence, focusing on the breath. As thoughts arise, observe them without criticism and return your focus to your breath. This simple act, repeated daily, cultivates a habit of non-attachment to thoughts, teaching us that we are not our thoughts and that we do not need to be led by them. Another powerful practice is to apply mindfulness during interactions with others. When talking to someone, listen deeply, without preparing your next response in your mind. This allows you to truly hear what the other person is saying and respond from a place of presence, rather than from your usual patterns of attachment and reaction. Now let us explore the deeper implications of these practices. When you become more mindful and less attached to your habitual reactions, you gain the freedom to choose your responses. You are no longer a slave to your conditioned patterns of behavior. Instead, you act from a place of conscious choice, which is powerful and liberating. Consider the implications of this in your relationships. How often do conflicts arise because we react from our past hurts or fears, rather than responding to the present moment? By practicing non-attachment through mindfulness and meditation, we learn to respond from a place of clarity and compassion, both for ourselves and for others. This brings us to an important realization. Non-attachment does not mean not caring. On the contrary, it allows us to care deeply, but without the burden of expectation and fear. It frees us to love more fully, to work more passionately, and to live more freely. Discovering the true self, non-attachment, and spiritual identity. As we delve deeper into our exploration of non-attachment, we now turn our attention to its profound impact on self-identity and spiritual growth. Understanding and practicing non-attachment can lead us to a more expansive awareness of who we truly are beyond our temporary roles and stories. In many spiritual traditions, the concept of the true self is central. This true self is often described as the unchanging essence within us, untouched by the external fluctuations of life and the internal movements of the mind. It is our purest state of consciousness, which remains after all layers of attachment and identification are peeled away. To approach this true self, non-attachment becomes a crucial practice. It involves gradually releasing our identification with aspects of our lives that we mistakenly believe define us: our careers, relationships, accomplishments, failures, and even our physical appearances. Each of these can dominate our sense of identity, yet they are not truly reflective of our deepest self. Imagine for a moment all the things you identify with. Now, consider who you are without those identifiers. What part of you remains when these are set aside? This inquiry can be unsettling, yet it is powerful. It directs us to the recognition of a more fundamental aspect of our being that is not dependent on any external or changing factor. This journey towards the true self is not about rejecting the world or our experiences. Rather, it is about seeing them for what they truly are: temporary and changing phenomena that do not ultimately define us. This perspective frees us from the fear of loss and the desperation of clinging, which are often sources of deep suffering. Let us consider how non-attachment can be practiced in the realm of personal achievements and failures, which strongly influence our self-esteem and self-worth. By applying non-attachment, we learn to view our successes as experiences to be grateful for, and our failures as opportunities to learn and grow, rather than as defining characteristics. This shift in perspective can profoundly alter our emotional landscape, reducing anxiety and boosting genuine self-esteem. Furthermore, non-attachment enriches our spiritual life by opening us up to a broader perspective of existence. When we are not bogged down by our limited identities, we become more aware of the interconnectedness of all life, fostering a sense of compassion and empathy that transcends our individual concerns. In practical terms, this can be cultivated through reflective practices like meditation, where we consistently observe our thoughts and feelings without attachment. This practice gradually loosens the grip of our ego, allowing our true self to shine forth. It also can be encouraged through acts of service, where we focus on the needs of others, thereby diluting our self-centered tendencies and expanding our sense of self beyond the individual. As we prepare to move into the next section of our discussion, reflect on how the practice of non-attachment could change your relationship with your own identity. How might seeing yourself as more than just your roles and achievements impact the way you live your life?